challenge is how far you can move with impeccability. When challenge arrives in excellence, one strives impeccably to meet them. If one meets unbearable hardship and pain and weeps, all the tears put together would not move the line of one's destiny, the breadth of a single hair. In excellence, one senses the interconnectedness with all that surrounds. In excellence, one shapes experience from this energy. One achieves to acquire stability in a moving world. Thus, to have knowledge is a continuous process of unbending intent. Employ what is essential. Aim at being simple. Focus on what is central in deciding whether to challenge. For any challenge, the challenge, shaping life. In excellence, one is willing and ready to make a stand, here and now. To live what we speak and speak what we live next. Relax. Abandon yourself. Fear nothing. Only then will the powers that guide you open the road and aid us. When faced with odds that cannot be dealt, in excellence one retreats, allowing the mind to meander, occupying time with something else, anything to do. In excellence, a second could be an eternity that may decide the outcome. In excellence, one aims at succeeding. Therefore, expand what may be sensed as contracted. Make use of the moment. And live to the edge of inspiration. Being at one with all things involves excellence. There's always someone up front. Thus, in excellence, one freely mingles and pretends to be a part of everything. One is a master of controlled folly. In excellence, everything that surrounds one is an unfathomable mystery. One must try to unravel these mysteries without hoping to understand it all. In excellence, one is aware of the unfathomable mystery that surrounds them, and aware of the duty to unravel it, takes a place amongst the mysteries, and regards self as one. Consequently, in excellence, there is no end to the mystery of being, whether being means being a hurdle, or an ant, or oneself. This is humbleness. One is equal to everything. In excellence, one learns to laugh and see self playfully. If one can be a fool, one can fool anyone. In excellence, one is timeless in patience, expanding what senses contracted with the coolness in the heat of the moment. In excellence rests an infinite capacity to vary one's tack, to improvise, to understand the routines of others and use them. In excellence, a higher self may be confiding in you in this moment, as is visiting a younger self to bring to bear what learning and resource is purposeful here. In the traditions of the native people of the earth here in this continent. The east was the place of new beginnings. That you may remember and use these directions this way in your life. That the east was a place of the rising sun. A sense of the ions in the atmosphere being expanded, everything coming out. Like a yang energy. The place of the eagle. And to the south, the place of warmth, the Colibrini, the place of the coyote, the trickster, ability to see the fluke to things, the field mouse, intimacy up close, the child within you, our playful self. And to the west, the place of the setting sun, a shedding away of the old, a making way for the new, a place of introspection, a place that looks within, a place of the dream catcher, a place of the bear, a symbol of family, a symbol of introspection, the place of lunar energy, wanting to return back to center. To the north, the place people look to see the trees lose their leaves, see the bare essence of things. Place of the white buffalo, the grey-haired people, place of our grandparents, and thoughts that let's make this earth safe for 7 generations. And whatever you do in the way that you walk on this earth, you sense that what you're doing is making it safe for 7 generations. This training's been very much about the East, new beginnings. Whilst our smoke stickers being lit, and you'll want to make sure that that's off the carpet, making your body oversnowed. I'm just going to share something with you about tonight. We're going to be walking around and chanting. Maybe it'll be a quick pace, and we'll be walking around the pit. And you'll be in a visual mode, and you'll be practicing visualizing something in your head, something cool, something light, something like frost, something like ice, snow. You'll be imagining that you're seeing this in your mind's eye, and you'll keep this in your mind's eye. You may have a number of things that are cool, like ice. You'll be totally seeing your mind's eye, and you'll have forgotten your feet. There'll be a sensation under your feet. You'll feel a little like popcorn. So we'll be chanting and we'll be up high. And for the most part, you'll have forgotten where your feet are. Mostly, you'll allow your unconscious mind to know where your feet are. Your eyes will be up. We'll be going around, you'll be watching us fix up the coals, mostly you'll be seeing things in your mind's eye. Then I'll join the inner edge of the circle, and I'll watch as you pass by to see that everybody is ready. And then I'll join the circle, and we'll be going around a few times. And then I'll lead across the poles, and the people behind me will come in behind me and follow through. And everybody will pass through once. And then you join the circle, and as you feel you'd like to make another few more passes, you can make a few more passes. feathers. There's a soft edge feather, so the owl flies silently through the night. But the owl is the keeper of the dark, the ability to see in the dark, the ability to catch what's coming to you live, the ability to hold on to what it is that comes to you, the ability of flight to night. Alright, we're just going to go 1, 2, 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Alright, okay, we're down there. So, today's the last day of the training, and we've just have been out there this morning and other people have been finishing up with the pamper pole. We're going to be talking a little bit about, we're going to be doing a few other first order change techniques today. I think I'm going to demonstrate a spatial sword, and we're going to talk a little bit about off-balancing strategy. Probably we'll talk about off-balancing strategy first. Then we'll do a spatial sword, and we're going to be talking a little bit about, we're just going to touch on immune system and how our beliefs and what it is, our patterns of doing things, how that either enhances our immune system, how it affects the immune system. We may talk a little about relaxation and attitudinal reflexes today. And then we've got an integration frame that we're going to do where, I'm going to be talking about metaphor as well this morning. Do I have a pencil? Let's see. I'll talk a little about metaphor this morning so that you'll really be sensing how to use metaphor, explaining something in terms of something else that has the same structure. And often it's a way of getting access to information that's in the right hemisphere. So it's a way of being able to explain things, and it's enabling you to be much broader in the way that you have ability to describe and explicate. And so the integration frame, where you're going to be, you'll have the opportunity to explain something in terms of something else, we'll set that up. That's going to help you with the gifting, because more or less the gifting is going to be involving a degree of metaphor that you're going to be spinning for the person in the gift that you give this person, gifting them with their excellence. And so that's mostly the gifting is going to be involving future pacing. So the gift that you give this person certainly is something that they'll be able to look at later on in life, and it'll remind them of some things that passed between you, and it'll remind you of things that have transpired here during the training. So the gift is actually like a future pace, and so you may also be thinking about the usefulness of that in the gifting process. There'll be some place in the gifting where you ask the person to go into the future, or you'll take them into their work environment, or into their home environment, or into their car in the future or something. And so there'll be some context with which the learning that transpires will be activated in some moment in the future. That's how future pace actually works. So I just thought I'd just briefly talk a little bit about off-balancing strategies. An off-balancing strategy. That's when you see someone balancing out there on the log, you can notice that there's a recovery strategy that we all have, which is to do with our return back to centre. And so we're watching to what degree is this being activated, because sometimes when a person realises that they're falling, they may not be actually activating their return back to centre much. In other words, they get off balance and then they just fall. And so that's actually what's occurring in life. And so if you see someone who really they've got an excellent off-balancing strategy, a strategy returning back to centre, you'll notice that if they're going to fall over to the left, if they're falling over to the left a little bit, you'll notice put their leg out to the right, to bring themselves back. And that's this returning back to centre. So this is actually reflexively activated in the brainstem, which is sometimes overridden by patterns that the person has in consciousness. It's certainly overridden when you see somebody who starts to go outside their pattern, you just don't see them go to right themselves much at all. So to what degree, in fact, that's being used. Off-balance strategy can be used where somebody's the pattern with which they are keeping is out of balance, basically. So balancing in the body truly is balancing in the psyche. That's the same thing. So you could say that we're all through our waking state, we're trying to balance things. And the balance that you see in someone's movements very much is the balance that you see in this person's psyche. So someone who's a little off balance, you'll notice they bump into things a little bit. Possibly this person has bruises on one side of the body much more than another side. That would be indicating a tiny little bit of neglect on one side, which would indicate, if it was on the left side, like a person was bruising their left side, right, their legs or something like that, that would be indication that there's a little bit of an absence of attentiveness possibly to this side of the body. So people are always trying to balance the things that they're doing as well. So off-balancing strategy works when you're with someone and they're talking about something and you realise that there's really kind of not so much balance there. Let's say they're waking up with the blast in the morning, or they get to work and things at work are out of whack, so that you can literally change the way that person arrives at work, or change the sequence around of things, or change the way that the person wakes up in the morning, change the order of things. If you're interacting with someone and always it's not kind of quite working out, change the way that you interact with that person. So that's more or less kind of throwing things. If the sequence is not balancing, then change the sequence round. If somebody's going through something and they are out of balance, right, then you can make it a little bit further out of balance, so that then maybe that activates the person to come back to their centre, whereas before it was something that they were able to manage, so that you can blow it out more. You can make it seem even a little more ridiculous, or make it seem like that, something vague, you know. So you can ask somebody to go through the sequence of things that happen during their day, taking them through their feelings, through what they hear and what they see, and asking them to note how their feelings are and what their experience is as they go through the day. And then when you've got a little bit of a short list then of how things have been happening for the person, so then you can go through and you can literally swap things around a little bit to change the order of things, so that you're actually maybe going a different way to work, or something that really does create a sense of a freshness and bringing you back to that place of sensing balance. Taking it out of maybe the habit that's there and putting something new in a little bit allows context to exist where I can see difference perhaps, and where novelty may exist a little more, that I can then sense something with a degree of freshness perhaps. Okay.
Okay, just before we go on to, by the way, that off-balance strategy is in the Practitioner's Manual. And,
I used that strategy to help someone give up cigarettes one time. They wanted to quit smoking, but they never quite were at that point. So I bought a carton of cigarettes, and I was around the person enough that I would say things that would always remind them to smoke more and more.
Yes.
Until they finally got really sick of it.
Yes.
And were able to quit.
So actually sometimes people are doing that. I know a fellow who has given up smoking, and that's the way he did it actually. It wasn't enough for him to just give it up while he was well, and he was thinking that this was not helping him much. But it wasn't enough for him to sense, and actually what he did was make himself quite sick. And then when he was really sick, then he decided to let smoking go, because it was, such a place that he'd gone to that was enough to activate his want to return back to centre. Okay. So that off-balancing strategy is on page 76 of the Practitioner's Manual. So at some point maybe you'd like to look at that. Just before we get into everything this morning, I heard people talking a little bit about content versus structure in the kitchen, and I think that would be a good idea for us to have a small discussion about that. And I just wanted to say, I just wanted to ask everyone, how's everyone's feet this morning after the fire walk? Excellent. Small cut. No blister though? Excellent, Richard. Good. Okay, so our fire walk really was successful. People's feet are excellent. That really worked well. Okay. So who would like to start with that little discussion that was happening in the kitchen about content, structure versus content?
I just wanted the question answered. There are times when we get asked the person who, what, when, where, how, specifically, to get the specifics. Is that asking for content?
Okay, now when you ask what, okay, or who, or when, or how, really you are keeping in your mind's eye that you are wanting to elicit the structure of something. Because the content can be a myriad of things, and yet, the structure may be the same. Going for structure, how something is done, rather than who was involved necessarily, or how many times something happened, or what the intensity was, or something like that. Really going for structure. Short is a shortcut, because when you get into content, yes, it takes much longer. Right.
And it's probably not as clear either.
Well, the main thing is actually that we're going for structure, actually. So sometimes content is important because the person is wanting to get into content a little bit, and so then that's okay. But the main thing is that there's no need for you even to know anything much about what it actually is, the thing itself. So you can work with somebody, and if this is something that's really embarrassing for them, and you can totally work with that person working with structure without having to know content.
The book Transformations, David's shown several techniques where it was contentless. And in the book Transformations, they give little exercises that would be content-free forms of therapy too, for more practice.
Is everybody understanding this? Certainly with people that you're working with over the phone, Penny, often people may want to get into content, and your time is valuable, people that you are talking to and everything. Good idea to imagine you have the ability totally to sense the structure of things and kind of more or less be on that level. Sometimes a person really does want to get into content though, and then you satisfy them a little, because that's partly something that they may be interested in. But mostly yours just having this sense of going for structure actually. Okay. Anything else anybody would like to add at this point about anything? thought I'd do now is demonstrate a spatial sorting with the use of space. So is there somebody who is interested in having something sorted out?
Like why you do something?
I think maybe we can do this. Let me do one technique involving spatial sort, and then I'll do something similar.
Okay.
We'll do something with Penny, something that Penny wants. So who's got like, for instance, maybe a food that they'd be interested in eating less of? Yes? Okay, Terry.
Addicted to cooking.
Okay, let's bring a chair over.
How did you see Sesame?
Terry.
Not exactly mine.
That's probably more what demons really are, though.
Okay, so we've already asked Terry to relax, and she's sitting now, and I'm going to ask her to go back to some place to set up like a whole brain functioning, so she has the ability to use all of her brain as we go through this. And the more that Terry has the ability to be working with me and accessing the cells in the head, a large enough population of cells can be accessed in the head to make this change instrumental. So what I'll have you do is you can lift a finger, allow a finger to lift by itself for yes, and a finger for no. Okay. So left finger is yes, left forefinger is yes, and right forefinger is no. So we're going to have the ability to be able to ask more or less yes/no questions, so that Terry can stay in this ideomotor place where she can be inside. And so I've asked Terry to go back to some place that she's been before, some really special place. And when you're there, allow your yes finger to lift. Okay. Okay. Enjoy that place now while you're relaxing, and ever so gently as your arm begins to float back down to where it is, where it was. Feel yourself relaxing more and more, and with each little distance that your hand floats back down, ever so gently, little by little, you can feel yourself relaxing more and more. As a matter of fact, the distance that your hand drops each time that it floats down a little, that you feel yourself relaxing more and more, and marking that out with each little place that your hand floats, and enjoy that place where you are. Look around. Sometimes you can zoom in, sometimes you can zoom out. So you can relax more, lengthening your breath. And with each wet breath out, with each breath in, you can be relaxing more and more towards the end of the head. Feel yourself slumping a little. The main thing is that you have a sense of feeling a relaxed state, and that every movement can assist you in this. And you can be thinking about that place where you are, and I'm going to ask you, is that by the ocean, or is that yes? Okay. So good idea to hear the sounds of the surf breaking on the beach. And as you're hearing the sound of the surf breaking on the beach, allow your yes finger to rise ever so gently, and as it rises, the volume of the surf and the sound breaking on the beach, and the ebb and the flow of the sound there. What a wonderful thing it is to have the sounds of nature inside your head. hearing the volume and the waves crashing and thundering on the beach. Allow your volume finger, your yes finger, to raise, and keep that raised whilst you're hearing the sound of the surf breaking on the beach. At some points you'll be looking around. Sometimes you'll feel yourself walking down the beach, feeling the sand underneath your feet. Sometimes you're feeling the dryness of the sand. Other times you're walking close to where the water is and you feel the wetness of the sand and the coolness of the sand underneath your feet. Now, you feel the interesting comparison between the wetness and the dryness. Sometimes you're so close to the edge of the surf that it rushes up the beach past where you are. Then it starts to draw itself back into the ocean. You feel the sand being drawn out from underneath your feet. Sometimes you turn to face the sun, feel the sun penetrating your skin. Other times you turn to walk back along the beach and feel the sun on your back. Feel the soft sea breeze. Listen to the sound of the surf breaking on the beach. And when you are ready, and you can be allowing your yes finger to remain up there whilst the volume is turned up on the surf, what I'd like you to do is, as soon as you're ready for us to do this spatial sort, and you can be hearing the sound of the surf right throughout this, it'll be interesting because in a little while you'll wake up from this and you have the ability to sense that you've been at the beach all this time. You'll have the ability when you wake up from this to forget all things that you love to forget and remember what a wonderful thing it was to be on the beach. And when you are ready to go on now, I'll ask you to allow this thumb to lift, indicating that you're ready to start this process. Okay? Alright, now what I'm going to have you do is we're going to imagine that there's a place that's your favourite group of foods. And what I'd like you to do is when you're seeing some of these foods in front of you, what I'd like you to do is when you're seeing some of these foods, point to where they are spatially. Okay, alright. And I'm going to ask you, is cookies there? Okay. Okay, good. Alright, now what I'm going to have you do is blank that screen out and imagine for a moment that you've got some food groups now that it's a food that you really don't enjoy at all. Matter of fact, you really can't stand it. And maybe you were made to eat it at one point and just really rebelled, really didn't like it at all. But still to this day kind of makes you feel a little squirmish. When you have a food, and maybe a couple of foods in your mind's eye, allow your yes finger to raise, indicating, okay, excellent. Now what I'd like you to do is point spatially to where these foods are stored, foods that you don't enjoy. Where are they? Down there. Okay, alright. Now what I'm going to have you do is pick a food group that's something that you will eat in the future, that's in that special category, in that special place. And what I'd like you to do is to move that food group and move it around a little and see and put it in a place that's just perfect and ideal for you. When you've done that, point to where that is again. And it's possibly it may be in the same place, maybe it's moved a little. Okay. Alright. So now you to do is look and see cookies there, and I'm going to ask you, do you want to eat less cookies? Okay. Do you want to be able to still have some sense of feeling about cookies? No. Okay. Would you enjoy just being neutral about cookies? Okay. Being neutral about cookies means that when you see cookies from now on, more or less, that you would enjoy more or less not so much having a feeling for them. But if they were there and you were sensing that you were hungry, it's possible that you could have some. Is that what you would enjoy? Okay. So basically, you'd enjoy feeling a little neutral about cookies. Yes? Okay. Excellent. Right, what I'd like you to do now is to look and see where cookies are in that pile. Take the cookies now and place them down in that place alongside the stuff that you don't enjoy. Good. Okay, excellent. Alright. The place that you've put them now, if you were to just look in the periphery of your vision, are they a little outside your periphery of vision? Yes? Okay, excellent. Good. Alright. Now what I'd like you to do is to imagine that you are now going to go into the future. Before you do that, let's just go back into the past. And what I'm going to have you do first of all is you're going to feel the resource that you have now, feeling neutral about cookies. Meaning, what I'd like you to do now is to see some cookies on a table, and you're just walking around and you see these cookies. Now, when you see the cookies, allow your finger to lift, your yes finger to lift. Excellent. What I'd like you to do is to move those cookies further away and blank the screen out a little. Excellent. Good. All right. Now what I'd like you to do is to walk around the room again in another situation and come past a place where you see the cookies. And what I'd like you to do is to make it black and white.